Hello, my name is Glenn Dyer. Listen, I know I kinda dodged around it in the best list, but there was something that happened in 2016 that really hit a lot of people hard, and I think I should just talk about that, especially since this is the worst list. And listen, I know it was a huge shock when it happened. Nobody was expecting him to win. Nobody. And especially all the other things that come with that. It's frustrating and it's scary to a lot of people. But I have to say, it's been a little while, and nobody can take it back now. The votes have been cast. So I'm afraid we're just going to have to learn to live with it and learn to deal with the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio won his Oscar. I know, it's disgusts me even to say such a thing, but the world's just gone into a real crazy place, and there's no way to take it back now. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened to the Oscars. Other character actors have gotten it. Natalie Portman I've mentioned, but this one in particular, a person so vapid and clearly so undeserving of an Oscar as him. Well, all I can say is this: let's hope the 2017 Oscar goes to a better person. Oh, God! Number 10. Masterminds. Oh, God. Maybe I should, mentally prepare myself before reading this list, but this was painful. This isn't the worst comedy on this list, but god damn it tried to be. Mastermind is the only word I can think to describe it is incompetence. The movie was released over a year after it was supposed to be, from what I can tell. The jokes in it are uninspired and pitiful. A lot of the time, the movie just kind of meanders around with no clear direction. I'm not even sure the movie had a script, if I'm being honest, and that's not a trait that is unique to this movie, but you'll see. It's clear to me that this movie was either some sort of scam, just like some sort of tax fraud thing, or oh god, I hope it was, because the alternative is that everyone involved in this is completely incompetent. Which, considering that Zach Galifianakis was also in a much better movie this year, it kind of makes it seem that it really was just some sort of tax scam. That's all I can do to explain it. It's awful. Number 9. Trolls. Get them out of my head, 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 get them out of my head. Okay. This movie is comparable to a pure sugar injection directly into the eyeball. It might seem fun for the split second that it is reaching your brain directly, but once the yeast infection sets in, you'll know you've made a horrible mistake. The movie is completely devoid of any kind of substance, any kind of character, any kind of comedy, drama, tension, anything! The music in this, though I don't think any individual song is sung badly or anything, it still just serves to make the movie an insufferable experience for any kind of adult. And the film's moral lesson, if you'll even believe it, is that you just gotta be happy all the time, no matter what happens. I mean, the character they choose to express this through is this guy who suffered some really tragic event when he was young, and thus has lost his color. But, as a result of this, he is a lot smarter than any of them, and is able to ward off the attacks by the goblins or whatever the fuck they are that want to eat all of them. But at no point do they address this simple fact that honestly, he was right. And that his specific character traits, that specific tragedy, made him who he is and helped his survival. Nobody seems to give a shit, as long as you just conform to our happy little dance. Nobody think this kind of shit through. That's horrible. Don't take your kids to watch it. In fact, roll the meme.
The troll. They say, don't let your kids watch it.
There you go. I'm glad I actually got an opportunity to use that. Number 8. Pete's Dragon. Speaking of horrible kids movies, but in different ways. Trolls gave me tumors on my brain. Pete's Dragon was just boring as shit. Robert Redford and everybody else in the movie, I don't remember, they deliver a really flat and completely bland experience, to say the least of anything. At no point do we actually care about the main characters or about Pete himself, who is basically just a giant green labradoodle with wings. So I guess we're just supposed to like him automatically. The story is a very simple E.T. kind of thing, but without the charm, character, special effects, anything of E.T. The simple, there's this creature that sounds wild, and then kids find it, and it's magical, sort of, because it can turn invisible, I don't know. And then adults find it and decide to kill it for some reason. No, he wants to sell it or something. I went over all this crap in my review. I'm not even going to bother elaborating on the plot anymore. Just know that this is completely boring. There's no other word to describe it. And don't watch it. Somehow it is even worse than the original. And the original is pretty bad. So that's talent right there. Number 7. The Forest. Oh boy. You know what I've noticed about Blumhouse? Is that Blumhouse is bad, but it always seems to never make the top 10 worst list. I don't know, it peters out at a certain point, I guess. And leaves room for this! Just bear in mind, most of this movie, from what I can remember, I don't know, I completely forgot a lot of it, this lady who gets lost in the spooky woods, and then spooky things happen. It's completely forgettable, as you can probably tell. Its horror consists mostly of jump scares and really inconsistent trip-out moments, from what I can tell. Yeah, definitely. This thing will probably show up in a Netflix dumpster at some point. Just let it sit there. Do me that favor. Number 6. The Wildlife. Christ! Why is it that both of the top 10 lists have been populated by animated family adventure comedies? What is with this year? Well, out of all of them, even though it was a pretty hard choice, this is probably the worst. It has quality so poor, both in the animation department, the voice department, which sounds like it's been badly dubbed, though apparently it's from England or something. The characters, the setting, the story, everything is complete garbage. I have no idea how this thing got a theatrical release. I can understand maybe in Europe, where they don't make that many, like somebody might watch it, but how the hell did this get released over here? We have tons of animated films. We have Trolls. We can do with Trolls. Trolls at least had great animation. This movie looks like something produced on the PS2. So yeah, from what I can tell, this was pumped out super fast, with no real thought, like many of these movies. And I was forced to watch it. So yeah. Number 5. 999. Now, speaking of forgettable, I still don't know exactly what happened in this movie. From what I can tell, I remember the beginning, they rob a bank, I think, and then this red dye goes off and that creates the poster, and that's it. That's all I can tell you about the plot. The movie, and this isn't just like complete forgetfulness, although the movie is forgettable, is that immediately after I watched the film, I was completely wide awake, by the way, I had completely forgotten the entire plot. I could not recall the plot. The movie is so confusing, so poorly edited, that I defy you to actually make sense of what's going on at any given moment. The movie also stars Aaron Paul in a role extremely similar to Jesse from Breaking Bad, which makes me wonder if he honestly did this in his lunch break or something, because it's a very small role, so I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, what more do you need to know? The movie's incomprehensible. That alone puts it onto this list. But bear in mind, there are 4 movies that are worse. Just think about that. We have reached a level where one is completely incomprehensible, and there's 4 more movies that are worse than that. Wow. Number 4. Blair Witch. Oh, what the fuck is this? What the fuck was that movie? Honestly. Essentially, it's the direct-to-dumpster sequel that should have come out a couple years after the first movie, starring a totally new cast and just doing the same shit over again, but slightly different. This one almost seems to take on a new idea here by adding modern technology to the woods and stuff. So it's like, oh, modern technology, maybe that'll be a way to counter all the Blair Witch stuff that was going on. Even though in the first movie it wasn't entirely clear that there even was a Blair Witch thing going on. Could be somebody was going crazy and messing with them. Could be those homeless people. That was the brilliance of Blair Witch. You didn't know anything. And in this movie, it's the exact opposite. Their technology doesn't work because evil Blair Witch magic is stopping it. And there were so many chances for interesting and unique scares with this drone that they have flying around, with this recording of their campsite as to see what happens with all the stick figures and stuff. Like, all these interesting things they could have done, and they completely fuck it up. The drone is pretty much put out of commission really early on, and then later serves as an excuse for a character to climb a tree? To try and find a way out? That's what you do with your drone? And the camera that watches their campsite, no, they say, oh no, it's run out of battery. We can't see it. Which, if you think about it, complete cop-out, because whoever the fuck edited this thing clearly would have had that footage and would have been able to show us what it looked like, but whatever. And as a found footage film, the movie's a complete cop-out by having everybody wear these magic earpieces that somehow record everything they see in stereoscopic vision. Like, perfectly what they happen to be looking at. The movie shouldn't have even been found footage if they were going to be that lazy about it. And the movie's confusing as all fuck. So, let's move on! Number 3. The Revenant. Well, here's the movie that started it all, huh? If you want to blame 2016 on anything, blame it on this movie! That is 3 hours of my life. 3 hours that I am never going to get back. 3 hours of Leonardo DiCaprio not even acting, which I'll explain in a little bit, but not acting, just reacting to stuff, going "Arr!" whilst Tom Hardy desperately tries to save the movie. 3 hours of that. And here's what I mean by not acting. The movie was actually performed in the cold. He actually ate meat. He actually, was dug into a hole in the ground. Hell, I don't know, maybe they actually shot him. I hope they did. So he is not acting. He is reacting. He is doing the same thing that all those stupid assholes on YouTube do in those prank videos. And yet somehow, this is an Oscar-worthy performance, despite it being a role that literally anyone could have done just as well. Literally anyone. a homeless person off the street, the King of France. Anyone could have done it as good as Leonardo DiCaprio. But even beyond that glaring problem, the movie has a plot that is more suitable to a 40-minute short than a 3-hour-long movie. As such, it is bloated with these flashback scenes, with sitting around with some sort of side story about these Native Americans trying to find their daughter or something. And it ends up feeling like a complete waste of time, as you realize that you have been sitting here for so long and nothing has happened. Even the only memorable thing about it, which is the bear attacking scene, even then, I still have to stress this, I still have to say, even though I know I'm in the extreme minority on this, it looked fake as shit. When I was sitting there watching it, it looked like a cartoon bear the entire time. At no point was I fooled. I know maybe that's just a matter of opinion, but there you go. And for those of you saying Leonardo DiCaprio acted well in that, once again, he's reacting. Somebody in some sort of motion caption suit was actually tossing him around, so there you go. That's not acting. I have to stress that. It's not acting. Acting is when you can do all that stuff without all the peripherals. Acting is when you can be a character without having to actually be that person. Acting is when you can do more than scream and act crazy. So there you go. Now to move on to something a little more obvious. Number 2. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I don't need to say too much on this one, but essentially, every single thing about it is terrible. If I can think of any highlights, I guess there was 1 or 2 action scenes, which taken out of context are kinda cool. But in movie, I find it hard to care. It's a complete mess. This is talking about the theatrical version. I know about the one where they supposedly fix everything, that version. But even then, I've seen the fixes and I don't think that completely covers it up. It was a huge pain to watch. Miserable, devoid of any kind of meaningful content, and honestly just sinking DC into a much larger hole. Now here's the thing, I'm not against superhero movies being dark or anything like that. I'm against them being incompetent. The Christopher Nolan Dark Knight series was great, and it was dark, and it was not incompetent. I guess let's see if they do better with Wonder Woman, but I doubt it. And now, before what should be the obvious number 1 to all of you out there, let's go to the honorable mentions. Suicide Squad. Honestly, if I were rating these movies based on everything outside of the movie, and not just the movie itself, Suicide Squad might be the worst. I mean, let's face it, the number 1 is a movie that nobody's ever seen. But Suicide Squad is a movie that so many people not only saw, but loved and want more of. This is despite it being a complete mess, a pain in the ass to sit through, and honestly comparable to Batman v Superman in just how completely awful it is. 9 lives. I asked for it. It was exactly what I expected. It was terrible. Something is wrong with me. Ghostbusters! A year so bad that Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters remake, didn't make the top 10. Boo! A Medea Halloween. A year so bad that a Tyler Perry movie didn't make the top 10 worst. Jesus fucking Christ! Jesus fucking Norm of the North. Okay, I guess I should just lighten up for a bit with this one. It is on the bad section of my list, not in the top 10, of course, but it is there. It's around that area. Because I gotta be realistic, it is horrible in many, many ways. But god damn it, I love it. It is just so off the walls, so weird, So terrible in an almost so bad it's good way. If it weren't for the one tiny fact, it's pretty boring most of the way through. But still, there are so many weird moments, like somebody setting up a house in the North Pole and that somehow cracking all the ice sheets for some reason, or the Arctic Shake, which is this big... I can't even describe it, but he dances like sporadically and randomly, yet it's somehow called a specific dance. The fact that none of the bears look consistent with each other, like Norm's girlfriend looks like a completely different style of animated bear. Just so many different little things that make it a very memorable experience, at the very least, whether you like it or not. And the #1 worst movie of 2016 is... Meet the Blacks. Ugh. Even saying that title, even when I didn't know what the movie was about, just the name, Meet the Blacks. It sounds offensive. Just the very fact that it has that name. And then it happens to be a Purge parody is the strangest fucking thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I can tell from that name, yeah, that's a parody of The Purge, sure! But not only that, they go through scene by scene, and this is the one case where I don't think I'm exaggerating, I don't think they had a script. Really. Because none of the scenes flow into each other, there is no continuity, and nobody's characters have any kind of flow to them either. The one that stood out to me the most was how the main character, he'd keep saying, purges don't happen in this neighborhood, and then he'll see something that would definitely suggest the purge is happening in this neighborhood, and he won't notice, or in the next scene, he'll just be reset again. And I don't think that was meant to be a joke, I honestly just think they had no plan for this. They were just like, alright, let's do this scene now. Okay, I thought of some jokes for that. Not realizing that he already made those jokes. Not realizing that filmmaking requires some big picture stuff, not just going through each scene, making shit up. It is so unfunny, so unbelievable in how bad it is. Not only is it incomprehensible, not only is it a complete and utter train wreck of a film. It is almost painful to watch. Not physically, it's not Beneath the Mississippi or anything, but it is unbelievable. That is the only word. Unbelievable. Mike Epps, I don't know how involved you were in this, but you should feel ashamed to be involved. Everyone should. As I said, this is a movie that nobody's seen before. Just keep it that way, alright? That's all I ask. Let this movie fade into obscurity. So, I guess now all that's left to do is say, let's see what the new year will bring us.
That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the